Boy, oh boy, do we have a problem because the Fed right now is expected not to cut rates in December. And as an affordability crisis gets worse and worse with crazy ideas like a 50-year mortgage being thrown on the table and a tariff reduction and stimulus being rolled around in the government, which we saw the effects last time. No data next week to be found whatsoever. What's actually going on in the markets and how can we profit from it as the big name, the big kahuna is reporting earnings this week of none other than Nvidia on Wednesday, November 19th is going to be absolutely insane. And, it wasn't bad enough that the home builders are also going to report this week as home prices start to tick up again in September to October, which is outside the seasonal norm. We're going to be discussing all this and more, ladies and gentlemen, today, along with telling you exactly what you have to know to say, hey, was this chop fest bullish or bearish? If you answered bullish, congratulations, you won. But the Nasdaq positions actually did not publish, even though the government was open today, which just tells me everything I need to know. It tells you everything you need to know. And that is simple, that buy the dip, and buy the dip some more. Especially with all these companies' earnings coming up with Nvidia. We're going to be talking about it specifically, giving everyone, again, $180 a share. If you missed the 170, that's going to be an insane evaluation. And everyone's screaming like their head off, probably saying, hey, it's a head and shoulders. We'll be talking about that, why this actually not really going to matter, and how every head and shoulder is the start of a W. And we'll be discussing that shortly. But you all came here to know what the hell happened with the dang stock market. And Friday was an interesting day to say the least. Why is that? Well, everyone at work, number one, was asking me like what to do, what to be bullish, to be bearish. Taking a page out of the legendary investor Warren Buffett, and we'll talk about what he just invested in also. With 22 on the fear and greed index, and bought Google, sold Apple. So that one's just going to be a doozy. We're going to talk about that one tomorrow, actually, about why Google is an absolute powerhouse, why Apple is Apple. Well, we call it crapple on this channel. And also this 50-year mortgage. We're going to be discussing all that and more tomorrow. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. And when that video podcast comes out, today we're going to be talking about what we need to do to understand this mess of a stock market. And it is a mess. Anyone telling you otherwise is full of crap. We came down to the 50-day moving average for a second time. Traditionally, that is bearish. Why? Because support that is being constantly tested is eventually going to break. Keep taking that rubber band, keep stretching it like this, and then eventually that rubber band is going to break. Where did we close? Well, we closed on a weekly nomer, what I call, which is essentially we did absolutely nothing the whole entire week. We went up, we went down, we went sideways and back around, and we are simply in the same spot that we started the week. Literally within like $1. So yeah, we basically went absolutely nowhere. Having said that, we did finally close this structure that was here, which was the gap. And I did say, hey, we could fizzle out heading into the middle of the week as more and more bearish intonation came. It was very, very interesting to see that rotation rotate back down very quickly. However, you are selling off into Nvidia earnings. There is a precedent for that, because if you're committing to the bad scenario, then when the good scenario rolls around, there's a high probability of a very violent reversal. Bears get screwed, margin calls get issued, and the rest is history, like 2022 to 2024 with the Federal Reserve's amnesia. Again, affordability and the Trump administration is kind of tone deaf on this completely. But talking about that tomorrow. So if you guys want to know about that, again, tomorrow's video. But looking at this 50-day moving average bounce as a strong bullish sign, I would like to see 680 get broken. I want to see this area get conquered, broken, obliterated, insert whatever in the comment section down below you think this area needs to happen to. And then we need to go higher. This week, we do not want to see the 50-day or anything lower than the 50-day. Again, I don't want to even see price transact at that point. That would mean a continuation of downside. And the problem is with that your 200 is sitting all the way down there. That's a haircut. That's a very, very nice 8% haircut, 10%, which would be probably from all-time highs. Yep, so 11%, that would be into correction territory, which is very uncanny, not impossible for the end of the year. That means that things could shape up in the NASDAQ a little bit differently, and that's where we're going to really have to go to understand what we need to do. Levels are the same way like last week. Really, there's nothing much different besides the emphasis on the 50-day moving average being significantly higher. I was not expecting us to retest the 50-day moving average again. Awesome buying opportunity. Hope you took advantage of it. However, it is not likely to happen again, right? That's really the head and shoulders kind of forming that W right here. Or is it going to basically form the M to the downside, right? Is that going to fizzle out? Are we going to be back in this 685, 680 region for the S&P, and then we're going to fizzle out completely? That's going to be really the question we're going to be trying to answer this week. We can also look at the VIX. Again, spike back above that danger zone on Friday, regained because everyone's hedging against that 50 break. I don't like VIX making higher lows, right? Higher low, higher low. Is it going to be another higher low, or are we going to establish a lower low? The market is establishing also higher lows. So it's like a very, very tug of war going on right now because we have confirmation of higher lows. We don't have confirmation of higher highs. We actually have confirmation of lower highs, which is both teams tugging at one another. The VIX is giving early warning signs that people are still fearful, which makes sense when the fear and greed index is smack at 22. Again, this is why I keep saying that this is very important. Be fearful when others are greedy, be greedy when others are fearful. Again, seeing this on that tells me the story is more bullish than it seems. Jump over to the NASDAQ, we actually had a very strong 50 defend. We actually formed a lower low on the NASDAQ, right? Previous price was 598.67. This is really setting up a very bearish intonation for not the fact that we rotated back above it. Again, if we break 605 on the NASDAQ this week, we are going down lower. We are significantly going down lower. Santa Claus rally is going to be canceled, and I will be probably flipping the bear script this week. But it also is NVIDIA earnings. And NVIDIA earnings, which we'll just get into a second, are going to be very, very interesting to say the least. Especially with China, especially with everything. Especially because NVIDIA really hasn't had one of those stellar earnings recently. Could this be different? So the 50-day moving average, again, is going to be the crucial point. 605 for this week on the NASDAQ. We need to get above 610. We need to get above 615 in a hurry. We really need to get 630 real darn fast because the correction in Bitcoin is not helping, right? Bitcoin just broke through everything and is coming back to support levels that we previously established back at 89 and 91. But really, I wouldn't even want to say those hold, right? I'd be looking more of the region of 880 to hold. I'd be looking at this region that we're coming down to of 93,000 to hold. So everyone's going super bearish on the whole entire broader market. Is Mike Burry right about his short position? Well, the NASDAQ's been here before again, where the NASDAQ has creamed every bear in existence. Am I betting the farm on the bulls? No, I'm not going to bet the farm on the bulls, but I'm telling you that every time everyone thinks the bears have done it, they are going to do it this time, they absolutely get blown out. And why are they not publishing the net speculative positions? It means because they're actually losing money on their positions. So again, 615, 610, that's where I'm going to be looking to see the break. And again, I keep saying the Russell is the indicator. Russell broke down. So we're really setting up, we got 3 strikes, almost. The Russell needs to get back above 240. It needs to close consecutively above that. And we need to really revamp those bearish expectations for the broader market. If we run down some of the big names, right? So we have the S&P levels, we have the NASDAQ levels. Just recapping the NASDAQ real quick, 610 is the first point we need to bullish. We need to go 615, and we need to go through 624 before we really get anywhere sort of semblance of a bullish rally that's going to establish. On NVIDIA, right, this is where things get interesting. Are we going to reconquer that 195 number? That is previous support, previous resistance. Now, are we going to conquer it? Or is NVIDIA going to drag the rest of the market down lower? I want to hear your thoughts down below. Meta absolutely getting creamed, but coming back down to that really important 586 number and forming lower lows. So we're confirming the bearish trend. We have not confirmation of the bullish trend. This is looking like it's going to bear cross heading into December, and that's pretty bullish unless NVIDIA launches higher. The expectations for NVIDIA are 31 to 6. I really want to know what the 6 are because it's going to be very interesting to see what people's opinions of this stock is afterwards. Expectation 31 to 6, but the broader market is just absolutely creaming. 1.2 expected gap EPS. Standard EPS 125. I'm thinking 135 and $56 billion. I think they beat by $1.2 billion. That's just my personal opinion about NVIDIA. I think everyone's discounting them significantly. And we can also go to the charts to see what's going on with NVIDIA, what's going on with everything heading into earnings. And right now, it's not looking too rosy for NVIDIA, having a sell signal up there, kind of finding support in this region right here of 180, 170. Again, that's going to be strong support. No one really knows what to do with this company. We did see a massive influx the previous month around October, so a lot of people are still holding, institutions are still holding that position, and that's why I'm saying, like, what happened back then? We got down to 164, so they're forming these little peaks and troughs of where they're going to be buying and finding new support. Going back to Meta and even like Palantir, right? Talking about this company was shorted out of oblivion, forming a lower low, confirming a lower trend. So there's more confirmation of bearish signaling here, but we really need to see the big ones fall. We need to see the Googs of the world fall down post-market. Google actually massive rally because Berkshire Hathaway bought $4.3 billion of them and dumped Apple. So again, Apple is losing that crown while Google and Microsoft and NVIDIA are running away with it with the AI. And I think Meta is probably the most underrated AI play right now because they told you they're going to spend more money on AI and you're dumping their stock. Just curious why. Microsoft in after hours, just an absolute chop fest, sitting around this 510 number. Again, fell after earnings 550 to sub 500. Everyone's gonna be complaining when this thing's $600 again that they didn't buy at 500, and it's the broken record at 350. So throw it out in the comment section what you're excited about. Throw a comment. What do you think the VIX is going to be this week? Because I personally think this thing's going to come down all the way to the lows 16 this week and stay down there as NVIDIA leads the earnings rally this week. And that the Fed expectations once we get the reports coming out is essentially going to be just a big nothing burger with everything 53.45. These odds can change massively heading into December 10th, which is only a month away. We're still got a lot of reports, still a lot of data that's going to be coming out. So make sure you guys are tuned in to the channel to know exactly when those reports, what they mean, and everything associated with them. Check out the latest two videos linked over here. We covered Cisco and other things on the channel as well. The Discord on the top left. Make sure you guys join that because we're going to be having something special coming out for that soon. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.